Arzio, can you hear me pretty good? Am I coming
Yes,
through
sir.
clear? All right. Praise Allah. Greetings to all. My name is Brother J. Crum Bay, Divine Minister in the Moore Science Temple of America, and I'm proud to be the host of the All Seeing Eye Show. And in this show, we discuss a lot of the current issues that are applicable to our socioeconomic conditions to assist in bringing the mindset as well as the physical attributes of our brothers and sisters and the like out of the unwholesome depths of misery, poverty, and suffering, and placing them on a solid rock, a sure foundation stone on which they can go to build themselves, as well as build any endeavors or adventures that they choose to pursue as it relates to business or those things that relate to society and building up this social construct. We know that in today's time, I mean, there are so many different things going on with this pandemic. We also see the remnants of a lot of the disenfranchisement of business as it relates to the Asiatic brothers and sisters here and on the alien shores of North America. In terms of being an actual player and having the type of platforms that can create generational wealth abroad. And in so doing, tonight's program was specifically dedicated to the community at large, because all of what we do is for the uplifting of fallen humanity. First, we definitely have to uplift ourselves. We have to find that we can do better. If we have a desire to be in a better position in life, economically, financially, socially, physically, emotionally, our spiritual health, our mental fortitude, then we have to go within ourselves and build ourselves up. But today I was going to have on the panel Brother Tiaranzie, who is the Grand Governor of the state of Missouri and also a community activist. We also have Brother C.P. Fuquay Bay, who was the Grand Sheik of Temple number 25, and that's in Detroit, Michigan. And we also had Brother Jalico X, who's also in Detroit, Michigan as well. And these brothers are all community activists. I do have to inform the audience that we were just on the call getting prepared to go live. And Brother Fuquay Bay had a situation to occur at his dwelling of business. So he's handling that right now. And we put out a good prayer that everything goes well with that. If he does have time to get back on the call, he will do so. But in the meantime, we will continue with the program that's set aside for today, talking about community programs, the different things that these brothers are doing actively right now as I speak in their communities. Okay. Prophet Noble Ali said for us to be leaders in our communities. I mean, charity begins at home and it spreads abroad. And emphasizing a lot of the different things that Brother Fuquay Bay, Brother Tiaranzie, and Brother Jalico X were doing in the community, they were not only feeding the community, they were uplifting the mindset of the community. They were filling a void in that community. For the young men and for the little boys, they were like father figures in that community. They were bringing food, they were bringing activities, they were bringing enjoyment for the children, for the adults, for our women, and for the men, to be examples, to give them something that they can reach for and invest back in their communities. Because for the most part, you know, sources of funding have kind of went silent when it comes to certain areas across the metropolis. And that's not just in Michigan, that's in Missouri, that's in Chicago, that's in New York, that's in Florida, that's in most of our urban cities of which most of us reside. We find that a lot of the resources are not just there. And for the most part, we have to stop being a beggar nation, waiting for others to hand us out something or to give us something or to set us up for any type of success, we have to take action and become involved in our own communities. If we want change in our communities, then we have to implement that. If we want to get rid of all of these blight houses and different things in the environment that causes decay and creates a breeding ground for crime and various other things, then we have to change that community from the inside out. And these brothers have been pioneering doing just that. And it's just an honor to have brothers who are doing these type of events and actually getting noticed by various different state representatives, both state and federal, receiving awards and accolades and things of this sort. And it's always great to have those type of contacts to know that the service that you're rendering is not going unnoticed. And that's what we want people to do. We want people to take note of what it is that we're doing, because this great program that's dedicated for the uplifting of fallen humanity, that means that we got to get boots on the ground. We got to go knock on some doors, even though sometimes the doors get closed in our face. That doesn't mean that we have to give up just because someone told us no, because there's always somebody out there that needs our help. You know, be it a homeless person, be it someone who's suffering in the grips of some sort of addiction, be it substance or gambling or what may have you, or someone who is just wayward in thinking, not having the right skill set or the mindset or the resources, or anyone who just really wants to care about them. You know, people don't really care about how much you know. They want to know how much you really care. And when society at large closes the door on certain individuals because of their shortcomings, that's where, you know, grassroots organizations have to put boots on the ground and get out there and feel the pulse of the people. And there's no better time than now, because what we see is, due to this pandemic and various other things going on, a lot of people have basically become unemployed. So a lot of individuals are home now in their communities. And so this is a good opportunity to actually reinstill a certain type of platform or foundation in the community where everybody can take part, and we begin to build it up from the inside out. So once this thing does pass over, if it does, but we do understand that life as we once know it may in fact not come back again as it was before. So with these stringent times, we have to have some stringent measures to combat it. And that's exactly what these brothers have been doing. And it's just an honor to have our brother Tiaranzie back with us again. I know he was on our first episode, and we were talking about implementing business and trying to identify, you know, what was required, you know, and what needed to be done in order to be successful for business and have a structure of business. And he's been very successful in business, as well as being a minister, as well as being a grand governor, which is the head administrator there in the great state of Missouri. And Brother Tiaranzie, if you may, could you just kind of elaborate on who you are, what it is that, you know, you are involved with there in your community in Missouri, and then we can kind of go into a little dialogue, a little Q&A, and kind of bring the listener and audience up to speed with why it's so important to have programs like this being implemented. But if you can kind of just take the audience on a little magic carpet ride so they can understand your dossier and what it is that you bring to the table as it relates to these issues.
Thank you, Brother Crump Bay. Again, I want to thank you for having me on your program.
Absolutely.
I want to give praise to Allah, the great God of the universe, and honor to Prophet Noble Jew Ali, the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America. And we trust in, with the help of Allah, that our brother Crump Bay is safe and his family is safe and the Moors is safe from whatever they experience at this moment.
Yes.
Actually, what we're doing here in St. Louis, I'm, as you mentioned, I'm the Grand Governor of the state of Missouri. Also has been assigned as the political outreach chairman by Grand Chief Brother T. Austin Neal. I'd like to give acknowledgement to our Grand Chief Brother T. Austin Neal. And what that entails is us to be aware of the various political laws that might political or races and political functions that take place in the city, and also to collaborate with various organizations to see how we can network together to
Mm-hmm.
have a significant impact on the community around us.
Okay.
We've been doing that for over the last 15 years or so, but where we located now, it's been like 7 years. And we've been actually partnering with certain organizations to get the job done.
Okay.
So basically, right now, the COVID, 19 has had an impact on our ability to be able to really do some of the things we would like to do in the community, because the policies and procedures that the health department is putting down in St. Louis kind of handcuff us from getting involved in certain areas like we would like to be involved in. But we're doing our best to still try to have an impact on the community as it relates to the distribution of food, handing out toiletries and necessities for the community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that being said, I mean, that's always a monumental task. I know that requires a lot of work and dedication. And I know that you're a man in various different areas, and proficiency, I know on one end has to be the same on the other. But when we look at these types of programs, Brother Ironzeal, I mean, what would you say? Be it that if you're doing it, or Freeway Bay is doing it, or any other brothers and sisters across the United States that are doing programs such as this, such as providing food, providing clothing, providing a lot of different activities for the community. What is most needed to carry out this type of cause? What is most needed?
Well, in my opinion, I think that commitment for those that have embraced the cause and been able to translate that commitment into partnerships that can have a great impact on where you're trying to have or what you're trying to do in various areas. But you need to be committed to the cause, dedicated to the cause, motivated by the cause.
Mm-hmm.
And that motivation has the tendencies to translate into helping you discover the resources you might need to make that cause a reality and have a great impact on the areas you're trying to deal with. So
Okay.
being commitment is to the cause, in my estimation, is very important.
Okay. So we gotta definitely be committed.
Mhm.
We gotta know that this is something that we are willing to sacrifice our time for, because for one, this is not something that people are actually getting paid to do. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And when you embrace, especially when it talks about when you embrace the Moorish Science Temple of America and you become a member of the Moorish Science Temple of
Mm-hmm.
America and you have made a commitment to Allah and gave your dedication to the cause, then you don't want to be motivated by money. You don't want that to be your motivating factor.
Okay.
Because then you open yourself up to be, a sellout, and the highest price can get you away from the cause. So you should be motivated by the cause of uplifting for humanity, the purpose of uplifting for humanity, dedicated to what Allah has blessed you with and what's given you to you by Prophet Noble Jew Ali. And
Absolutely.
that dedication will translate into you being able to figure out how to get the resources to make certain things happen. Now, they might not come as quick if you would like for them to come, but wherever you at and you dedicate and doing it, that's where Allah wants you to be at that time.
Okay. So a lot of uh, the prerequisites that's needed, because if I'm understanding it correctly, because I wanted to ask Brother Fuquebe a couple of those questions, like where does the food come from? Is it a state or facilitated type of way that the food is distributed? Is it a food bank that they go to get the food to be able to pass it out? Or is there another way that it's actually done? But as far as building on that platform, any outside contributions or donations to aid in furthering the cause, when you set up the platform to service the community, are you open to receive donations and contributions from the populace at large, or not?
Oh yes, we always open to get financial help or any kind of help that's going to assist us in our purpose and cause. But as it relates to St. Louis, the food distribution, we partner with an organization that you might be aware of called the National Urban League.
Yes.
And through the Urban League food distribution, we able to get food from them to bring to our location and distribute it in the area where we located at. But what I grant sheet like for us to do when we do get the food, as opposed to having people to come to us because some people don't have the transportation, I grant sheet like for us to take it door to door. So we get the food from the Urban League and we distribute it door to door, especially to our seniors, to make sure they have adequate fruits and vegetables while they go through this pandemic. But yes, we always open for contributions and any kind of financial help that's going to assist us, in furthering the objective and the purpose of Prophet Noble Jew Ali.
Absolutely. Because, it's more than just the food. I mean, the food is a key element because when people are out of work and their funds are short, then of course their food supply would tend to dwindle from time to time. So there's no shame in brothers and sisters and children alike being able to go out and get fresh, good food that's not outdated. Because I talk to a lot of people be like, oh, that's that old food that didn't nobody else want, so they're just giving it away. Well, I was actually there. I looked at some of the dates and things on the can, on the vegetables, and a lot of the stuff was fresh and it was good food. And but aside from just the food, it's the other resources, the other programs that financial contributions could definitely assist in laying out platforms or foundations that we could engage the public in that are absent from a lot of the communities. What type of programs do you see that some serious funding can be directed at to kind of re-engage our youth, to kind of grasp them again? What type of programs could we implement right now in our communities with contributions, of course, to be able to kind of scale in on that?
Well, that's a large area,
Yeah, it
a
is.
large issue that we gotta really focus on, and that entails a lot, from education to mental health, to job creation, business development, to have the impact on the community that's most needed, especially in those areas that's been less invested in. One of the things we all are a part of, our organizations are part of, is an organization called Sleeker.
What is it?
And that's Sleeker, and that's an acronym for St. Louis Housing Community Reinvestment Alliance.
Okay.
And what we do is we kind of, watch banks to make sure that banks are adhering to policies, the Community Reinvestment Act policies, to have a significant impact on low and moderate income areas. And what we've been doing here lately is to ensure that financial institutions, give the certain various community-based organizations to have the capacity to ensure that people that might be getting put out their houses can have rental assistance. People that might be having problems with rentalization that it contributes to their increase in gas bill. They got access to get their homes winterized. Those organizations those families that might be falling short on needing help with home repairs, to ensure they invest in those areas, and to give financial education to communities that's been left out of the economic spirit. So
Okay.
there's a lot of issues that plague our community that we really need to address. And one of the most important one that I see that's going on here in St. Louis is mental health. Our people are got a tremendous amount of anxiety and depression that's been played out and being acted out in them, but through self-medication, the addiction of drugs, they've been acted out in various areas that is unhealthy to the whole entire community because there's been no resources in mental health. And we think that that's one area we need to focus in on. But, as it relates to the Moore Science Temple of America, what we did, Brother Crumb Braves, to put a plan in place to be able to to build those resources that we might need. So when Asiatics do join our organization, they can have direct access to those resources to make them stable, to make them healthy, to make them efficient, to make them to be able to understand, how to deal with some of the trials of life. So
Okay.
our plan consists of, building a sustainable organization that can be able to get the resources out to our community, to our people,
Hmm.
especially those that have joined the Moorish Science Temple of America. We want to be able to sustain healthy families with adequate income.
Absolutely.
When you join the Moorish Science of America, we trying to partner and network with organizations and workforce development organizations and trade unions so that our people can have access to good paying jobs. We want to be able to, we're working with these banks now. We're building a relationship with the banks so that Moorish Americans, when they get their businesses started, have access to capital. They can be able to employ Moorish Americans there in the community. And we want our children healthy and being able to succeed in school. So
Hmm.
we trying to put a mechanism in place and build an institution that's going to be sustainable. So when Asiatics do join the organization, they got the resource they need to
Exactly.
strengthen themselves and help build a community. So
Absolutely.
right now we in the community phase. We know that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali has given us everything it takes to build a nation, but I think that comes in steps. That's in levels. You first got to get a strong, family life, and from a family life, you get strong community life, and from the community life, you can begin to grow and expand, outward. So right now, we just trying to stabilize our families and stabilize our neighborhoods to a point that they can at least begin to see some light.
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's always a good thing. So it's not just for Moorish Americans, but upon entry into the Moorish Science Tip of America, you're talking about having that mechanism in place that when they proclaim their nationality, it's more than just receiving, their Bayah. It's a lot of other things that go along with that, like a holistic approach, because you talked about just a tad bit about the mental health issues
Mm-hmm.
and putting people in the right position so that they can be successful.
That's
So
correct.
I'm understanding you to say that you did a lot of that work for them on their behalf by having this mechanism in place. So when they join, here it is, they can be infused with all these other benefits. If they so need them, they are available for them. Now, does any of those benefits deal with any type of health coverage, anything like that?
It's strange you mentioned that because there's a young lady who just became the state representative in the 77 Ward, Miss Kim Collins. In fact, her brother is a alderman that we work with. Matter of fact, and their father was a Moorish American before he passed. She just became a state rep, and she's putting in place as we speak a committee to deal with mental health issues,
Okay.
and trying to get resources to come to the community. So we going to be partnering and sitting with her to see what level could we do and what level can we begin to network with her so that we can be able to help address that issue too. Now, we're not just saying, I'm just giving you an outline on what's taking place on how the vision on our grant T. Austin Neal is taking us, but I'm also saying that we do partnership with various organizations. Everybody's not going to, we didn't come to the conclusion that everybody's not going to just accept the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, but that don't mean they don't need the help
Exactly.
out here on what they need. So we do partnerships with various community-based organizations and try to
Mhm.
share in resources to help our people overall. But as it relates to it relates to the mission and purpose of uplifting fallen humanity through the Moorish Science of America, we need a sustainable organization that can do just that. Because
Absolutely.
what happens is that when somebody just proclaims their nationality and they have no other resource to be able to assist them in their struggle, it becomes difficult. Some of
Exactly.
us accept the teachings of Prophet Noble Drew Ali in some conditions where we didn't have to worry about no light bill. We didn't have to worry about no health care. We didn't have to worry
Hmm.
about where we're going to get some food to eat. We didn't have to worry about this. We had time to study. We had time to examine ourselves. So we want to be able to create the same environment. So when somebody joins the Moorish Science to America, they can clean themselves up, become a productive member of society, and go get somebody else and bring them to the Moorish Science of America to help us build and sustain a community.
Absolutely. And it's so key that you would say it in that particular format or that particular way, because that's what it's all about. It's all about uplifting humanity from the unwholesome depths of misery, poverty, and suffering. So, for one thing, for a person to proclaim their nationality, become a part of the movement, but they're still struggling with their light bill. They're still struggling with substance abuse or mental health, or they need a home, or they need work, or they don't want to go to school, but they're willing to get a vocational trade. These are the types of things that this mechanism that you're talking about putting in place would
That's
actually
correct.
fill that void, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. Until we able to have our own, we partner with different organizations. We
Yes.
got Brother Tyrone Johnson Bay. He works with an organization called Employment Connection. Him and Brother D. Collins Bay, a member of Temple 75, just became a manager of Employment Connection. I sit on the advisory board. So that gives us an outlet to be able to, when more people join the organization or don't join, but looking for jobs, we able to send them somewhere to be able to have access to a resource that can assist them.
Exactly.
The organization is for the uplifting of all the humanity. So that's what we in the business of doing. So we got to be able to have things in place to be able to do just that.
You're absolutely
And if we
correct.
don't have the capacity to be able to do it on our own, we have to be able to do the collaborative efforts
Exactly.
and build that capacity by doing partnerships with people that
Exactly.
got those resources to we become strong on our own.
Exactly, more. And that's so good that you say it that way. I know on the couple of shows back, I had Terrence Dunbar Bay, and this brother is involved heavily out in the Oak Cliff area there in Texas. And he's been, he was a NFL alumni, and on the show, he broke down everything in terms of the resources that he brings to the table. And everything that you're saying right now, ironically enough, it matches up almost, exactly to what he was talking about, because he has those programs in place. He has the funding in place. He has all those things in place that any temple in any part of the United States can kind of get involved with. It's like a cookie cutter type of program approach. He had this startup toolkit that he was sharing on the podcast that we had with him, and he went down bullet point by bullet point by bullet point. And I saw that this was such a great situation, because certain areas in our communities, especially a lot of the urban communities, the lower income areas, have basically been targeted for sources of funding. It's just that most of the population in those communities are not aware of those programs, or not aware of how to write the grant to get the sources of funding, because these are monies that you don't have to give back. There are also ways in which each temple could start a school to teach the required vocational trades: electrician, plumbing, carpentry, things of this sort. These are sources or accolades that a person can get in a couple of years' time. They're apprentice and becoming a journeyman, that they can infuse and become viable economically, be it that they are working on a job site, or be it that they are working for the Moorish Science Temple of America. So that's just another way for people to capitalize on the people who are members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, to be able to promote socioeconomic relief and well-being, and be able to focus on the areas where we may fall short, with our mental health and substance abuse, or just basically abuse, be it domestic violence, or people need anger management, because we know that a lot of times in environments that are hostile, and when people are frustrated because of the shortcomings, they're short fused, and oftentimes tempers flare, violence occurs, and a lot of times people end up in jail. So what we're talking about is creating a type of mechanism or a program that would deter those type of activities from ever taking place based
That's
on what you
correct.
see.
That's correct. And that's the kind, that's the way our temples need to be designed. That's where our temples are being designed. And it takes commitment to make that happen. You know,
Absolutely.
and the Moore Science Temple of America is indeed the solution to the Negro, Black, and colored problem.
Absolutely.
It's a solution,
Absolutely.
but the people need to have the opportunity to understand that it's the solution. So we got to create an environment for them to understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Like they having a crime issue here in St. Louis, and we our sister Grand Sheik was through our organization. We have a nonprofit organization called MAPS, Moorish American Preservation Society, out of which we have a young men's program that's being funded by the city. But because of COVID, we not having our sister Grand Sheik and his staff have not had opportunity to have hands-on, but they've been doing Zoom meetings. But we can deal with that problem if they are willing to sit down and listen to us and have a conversation with us,
Mm-hmm.
and allow us to give us the resource to make it happen. We got in St. Louis in both temples, in Temple 5 and Temple 75, we have a 99. I would go on record and say we have a 99.9% recidivism rate. You do not go back to jail if you participate in the Moore Science American, believe in the law and the prophet, and come actively involved in organizations. You don't go back. Mm-hmm. You do not go back to jail.
Exactly.
So Noble Ali got the solution to the crime problem. Mm-hmm. Noble Ali can address the crime problem. But the thing is, the people got to be willing, the elected officials in certain areas of St. Louis and around the country has to be willing to listen to the leadership of the Moore Science Temple of America to assist them in handling this problem. The Moore Science of America is the solution to the Negro problem.
And you're absolutely correct.
And when we get the resources, if we are allowed to get the resources from the various agencies that's control the resources, they can see the change. Mm-hmm. They can see the change. No different than they seen the change from 1925 to 1928 in South Side Chicago.
That's right. That's right. Sure.
It's no accident that Barack Obama, who's the president, the first Asiatic president of the United States of America, come out of that same machine, political machine, and political apparatus, and that environment that was created by Prophet Noble Drew Ali back then.
Absolutely.
Those traditions still linger on in those neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying, Brother Crump Bay, to the listening audience, that the Moore Science America got the solution to the Negro problem. The Moore Science America can solve the problem if given the resources to make it happen. And absolutely. And through this program, we can see a change in our neighborhoods.
Absolutely. And everything you said is spot on, because this program, it's more to the Moore Science Temple of America than just proclaiming a nationality. Because when people proclaim their nationality, when they learn who they are as an individual, it inspires them to dare to do wondrous things. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali, he promoted economic security. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali promoted us to dare to do wondrous things, to go out and open up businesses, to get educated, to become more useful to your community at large, to be leaders in your communities. But more than anything, he enabled us to have an independence and not constantly begging others for what it is that they want to leave behind, looking to go to their door only to get it slammed in our face. Well, if you keep knocking on their door and they keep closing the door in your face, then maybe you need to build your own building and walk into your own dwelling. And that's where we are going right now. And it's so ironic that you speak on these terms and these issues, because right now, more than anything, the Moorish hordes are increasing here in the Americas. And a lot of people aren't afraid. A lot of people want to come in and proclaim nationality, but they want to be put to work. They need something to do. Okay. They don't want to continue on the same divide that they're going upon. They want to be a part of a nation of people. And just like you said, for those who came into the more science tip of America, who found themselves riddled with the life of crime prior to, and you're right, they get involved in the more science tip of America. They develop a certain skill set, a certain mindset. They're not encrusted in that survival instinct mode, like, hey, look, I got to get it any way I can. No, they have principles now that they govern their lives according to. And once they take up the work of uplifting fallen humanity and being a part and parcel of all uplifting acts, then, they're too busy doing good things to have the time to dedicate to doing those things that only are conducive to, another prison term or something like that. But more than anything, brother, it's good that you're talking about it, in this capacity, because, it's many layers to the Moore Science Temple of America. It's a school of higher learning, how people can learn what their positions are as men, what their positions are as women, what our positions are as children and the elders, and how everybody plays a part. Prophet Noble Drew Ali had a phenomenal vision for this organization back over 100 years ago. And just like you said, he came in and he saw a lot of those problems that were going on in the roaring 20s. You had, Bumpy Johnson, Lucky Luciano, Al Capone, all that stuff he was battling with back then. Mm-hmm. And we look at the things that are happening today, mm-hmm. and we look at our social divide, we look at the youth and how they are today. How can we reach them? How are we going to get them back? And we look at the prison systems and everything that's going on out here. Society at large is not necessarily set up for your failure, but if you go down the wrong path, if you go down the path where it's only a lack of resources available, and in your environment, in your neighborhood, there's nothing there for you to do, then what else can you do? What else is there for you to do? I mean, you turn on your own. You don't know how to go out and grow your own food. So you want to consume everybody else's. The prophet talked about us being consumers and not producing anything. This enables us to become productive. But like you said early on, it's going to take those who are dedicated and committed to actually getting in, rolling up their sleeves, and putting in the work. If you can put in a 40-hour week to go get paid an hourly wage, then you can put in some time with this that's going to pay you and your children and your children's children for many different times to come as the world proceeds forward. Now, we do open the floor for any questions that any.
But before you go, let me make this one point. And the one point being is that that's our vision, is to become self-sufficient and sustainable, where we able to hire the brothers and sisters to do their outreach, where they actually work for the Moore Science Temple of America. We working towards that kind of sustainability.
Exactly.
But at the same time, we also realize that the city of St. Louis have a $500 billion budget, and that belongs to us as citizens as well. So we want to be able to have access to that to be able to help Noble Drew Ali in this missionary work as well. So we moving towards self-sufficiency. We want to be able to employ our own. We want to be able to bring our minds. We don't want our school teachers and our school teachers or somebody that knows something about selling cars or doing plumbing to be somewhere else. We want to be able to give them the same kind of health care that they getting from the public school system. We want to be able to give them the same kind of pay. We want that mind back with us. Exactly. So that mind can assist Prophet Noble Drew Ali in building the community and building the nation. But at the same time, until we get that type of capacity, the gold and the silver belongs to us. And we also try to unlock those keys and make sure that the people that's in power understand that the Moore Science America has something to offer the community.
Absolutely. And, and that's another thing that why I put those emphasis on what the brother Terrence Dunbar Bay had brought on the podcast, because that's exactly the program. That's exactly the program right there in and of itself. Because see, right now you have a lot of people who are qualified, who are without a job right now. A lot of those qualified individuals that you didn't have access to before because they were busy, they were working. Well, now they're not working, some of them. So they're accessible now. And being able to galvanize those individuals and be able to offer them a pay that's equal to what it was that they were getting. We're not trying to dummy down their pockets in the least form. We want to pay them so that they can be able to do this stuff, because a lot of people, for lack of a better term, those who are qualified that need their bills paid, they're not looking necessarily to come volunteer. They're looking for a job. They're looking for something that's going to put something in their pocket, even though they love what it is they do. They love teaching. They love educating, and they're very proficient at doing it. But guess what? They still got bills too. So if we can provide an economic budget, like you said, over $500 million just there in the state of St. Louis, you would be surprised as to how many of our urban communities, they have millions, tens of hundreds of millions of dollars that go every single year, that go untapped by our resources because of our lack of knowledge on how to access the funds. Even though the funds are there, it's still formalities and procedures and policies that you have to adhere to in order to receive it. And for the most part,
we have community. Grand CT Austin Neal has allowed our committee to have community meetings to teach just that. To teach on city budgets, to teach on how to access grants, to teach on how to state, allocate revenues to certain areas of the community. We have community meetings on that.
Okay. Well, that's a beautiful thing. And I do want to open the floor up. I'm enjoying this conversation with you, but I do want to open the floor up, for the listening audience that may have any questions, concerns, or ideas about what we're talking about, the community at large in uplifting fallen humanity. But we do have two questions that I would like you to address, Brother Tiaranzie. It says, question, for Moors who wish to do things like Iron Zeal and Fuquay Bay that you guys are doing in their communities, how do you start and what steps do you take? If they want to, get involved in their community, how do they start? What do they go first? What do they do?
But if you want to feed the homeless, and just feed the homeless. It's just what you want to do. Just do it. I don't know how, I hope I'm not being offensive.
No, you ain't being offensive.
If you want to do it on a massive scale, then if you don't have the capacity to be able to do it on your own, then you want to find those community-based organizations that might be funded by the state or local governments who you can partner with that can give you access to those resources that you can bring to your neighborhood and you can distribute it through them. So that's one way of looking at it until you're able to build your own capacity to be able to do it on yourself. But until then, if you just want to do it, you can go as small as we first started off doing sandwiches, making sandwiches up, put them in brown bags, and taking the brown bags out down to the various areas where the homeless was at and feeding the homeless. But again, if you want to do it on a larger scale and you don't have the capacity to do it on your own, then you want to find that community-based organization that's doing it and partner with them.
Absolutely. And not only that, to kind of, piggyback on what you're saying, not only that, but also get with the individuals who are actively engaged in various states and cities doing this now. You got Michigan, you got a couple other states and cities where you have Moors who are actually getting the work done. Maybe they can steer you in the right direction, as well as maybe plugging in with, this program that this brother is putting together. And right now we're putting a project together because what we wanted to do for our listening audience was to bring them back an actual working model of some of the things that we've talked about, on the podcast. And I know me and Brother Dunbar Bay, we're working on some things right now. So if you want to be a part of that, I would suggest go back to the show where we featured Brother Terrence Dunbar Bay, and he outlined that particular toolkit to get some things done. And he is a resource that I'm utilizing right now as it relates to that, because it helps to take it just from, feeding the homeless or feeding people with food to taking them up a few levels to opening up businesses, teaching skill sets, or, opening up schools in your temple, in your home, doing things that you normally do right now every day on a volunteer basis that you can actually get paid to do. So this is what we're talking about. So if you're definitely interested in that, get with me. Give me a call. You can always call me 734-304-2329. I'm always available. If I don't pick up, leave a message or just text me and I'll point you in the right direction. I know Brother Tiaranzie, he's busy, doing a lot of different things there in Missouri. And just like he said, hey, look, if you just want to get in and do something, hey, go get some peanut butter jelly, make some sandwiches, get out there and feed some people, but there are sources of funding. There are resources available to assist us in those endeavors, but there are also another program that's available that gives us the socioeconomic independence as well as the revenues to help us to build a bigger, larger infrastructure that's duplicatable, that can be done in DC, it can be done in Chicago, it can be done in Michigan, it can be done in Missouri, it can be done in Philadelphia, or wherever it is that you may reside. Now, the other question, Brother Tiaranzie, just to
But
get
before you
back
move
to
forward, I did want to make
Go
this
ahead.
last point.
Go ahead.
And I hope I haven't offended anyone, but I did want to make this last point: is that when you start going in that direction, try to always galvanize the Moors to be independent, to build and sustain themselves first.
Exactly.
Never try to put yourself in a position where you collaborating or partner with anybody that might want to give you some money and tell you how to tell Noble Drew Ali how to spend that money. You want
Okay.
nobody to want to tell Noble Drew Ali how to spend no money. You want to be
Exactly.
able to stay independent as it relates to anybody you do a collaborative effort with, because a lot of people got strings attached to what you can and cannot do. So you want to
Exactly.
always be independent. And that's putting your nickels and your dimes and your quarters together, just like they did in 1925, to sustain and build a sustainable community that's independent and have its own independent voice.
And you are correct with that. And that is another thing that we definitely want to be on the lookout for, because a lot of times when accepting certain sources of funding, they already have their agendas, rules, and regulations that are established as to what you can do with this money. You can't do this, you can't do that. We need a report on this, we need a report on that, and that's when people are getting in your business and getting you dependent upon them, and then they pull the safety net from up underneath you, or you lose total control of how it is that you're organizing your infrastructure. So it's always good to get, independent, contributions and or donations. However you have your business model set up, you want to be able to receive that. You're supposed to have your nonprofit end as well as a profit end. So you got to have your status correct. And Brother Tiaranzie is correct. We have to be mindful of the small print, because anytime it starts to interrupt, the business of what the prophet is initiating, then that's a program that we don't want to have any dealings with. I don't care if it's $10 million, but if it's telling me that I can't do X, Y, and Z, and I know X, Y, and Z is fundamental to the organization, then that's a conflict. Now you may want to, set that up under some other type of banner that has no direct involvement with the Moorish Science Temple of America. It's how you structure business. A lot of people have good hearts, good ideals, and just want to get out here and do the right thing. And hey, I'm the Moorish Science Temple of America, just put the name on stuff. And, they may have good intentions, but they may not have all the right information as it relates to how to conduct business ethically, without any type of upheaval or repercussions coming up that we might experience on the domicile. So let me get to this other question, Brother Ironsdale, but that was a good point that you interjected. I would definitely concur with you there. It says, are there any nutritional programs in place involving teaching the community on healthy eating?
Well, as it relates to the Moorish Science Temple of America, we've been looking at that in our planning stage in regards to that area there. And we have a young brother by the name of P. Jones Zeal. He's very interested in nutrition. Also, our assistant Grand Sheik, Brother Z Studio, is interested in nutrition. So in our planning of our organization, what we've been looking at doing is developing a diet, a Pacific diet on how what we think would keep the families healthy. So we've been looking at the Quran and information been given us by Prophet Noble Ali to try to extract that information and come up with a qualified diet that could be sustainable for generations to come to keep them healthy away from diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, and other elements that might affect their ability to be successful in the future. So as it relates to nutrition, yes, that's one of the areas we have been looking at as well.
Absolutely. Nutrition is definitely a key component, because Prophet Noble Ali says in the Holy Quran, what health is to the body, even that's honesty to the soul. Man gets his food from atmosphere. You are what you eat. If you eat a bunch of disgusting food, then your vibrations are not going to be at their optimum performance level. It's just an exact fact of, a lot of our people, they suffer with diabetes and, cholesterol and thyroid issues, high blood pressure. And oftentimes it's based around what they've been eating or consuming. If you eat right, then of course your body will function right. And then we would void ourselves of a lot of these physical diseases, as well as a lot of mental diseases, because a lot of the food that we eat is not good for us. But where is it that we're going to get our source of food? Are we going to always continue to be dependent upon someone else to feed us? Because what if, Brother Tiaranzie, if the lights went out, where you going to get your food from? Where you going to get your water from? Where you going to get your shelter, your power to power your home? How you going to take care of your health? So we have to look at those things and ask ourselves some hard questions. Are you dependent or are you independent? We got to grow our own foods. We got land. We got to tackle the science of agriculture.
Definitely.
We need to be canning our own foods. I mean, let's look back in the 40s. The Moors, when they had Big Bertha running all up and down, taking food and vegetables to the Moors were growing that food. Yes. Organically grown vegetables with seeds in them, not none of this hybrid stuff that they got going on. But we need to have our own. We say it all the time. The Prophet Noble Ali implemented this stuff back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. Moors were getting busy. Some of our forefathers, they maybe couldn't read or write, and here it is. You can read or write, but yet still the things that they left behind, they're still sitting there gathering dust. Okay. So we got to be able to take that seed that was planted and nourish it and be able to grow our own food and vegetables so that we can eat a lot more healthy and have a prescribed diet, because I do believe there is a prescribed diet in the Moorish Science Temple of America. I just think that for the most part, sometimes we tend to kind of close the book on that. We don't really want to hear about, hey, man, you don't supposed to be eating this, or you don't supposed to be eating that. You don't supposed to be drinking. You don't supposed to be smoking, and things of this nature. And a lot of times people don't want to give up some of those vices, and eating disorders can be considered a vice, just like smoking cigarettes. It can be an addiction, and healthy eating habits should be implemented, because if you really want to vibrate at a higher level, if you want to reach a plateau of a broader, more clear understanding and be able to manifest those things, then you're definitely going to have to change how you eat, because if you're gathering all that mucus in your system, mucus causes the disease. So therefore, we got to start watching the things that we eat and start purging ourselves away from being, so much of a carnivore, so to speak. I mean, being vegetarian, or, there's a lot of different tarians going on, but, vegetarian is always a good way to go. A lot of people say, well, what, do Moors eat pork? Well, I know some Moors that eat pork, but do I eat pork? Absolutely not. Do you, Brother Ironzeal?
Oh no, brother man.
Okay. Okay. You don't eat chicken or fish? You're a
I eat chicken
vegetarian,
and
ain't you,
fish.
Mo?
Yeah, I eat chicken and fish, but I don't eat beef. I
No,
don't eat
no
no
beef,
red meat.
no red meat. No,
Yeah.
no.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because see, some people say, well, if you don't have the money and all you can afford was that, then hey, if that's what you got, that's what you got. But healthy eating should be a continuous habit, not just for Moors, but for anybody. So you can stay away from all those medications and other things that they want to prescribe for you. I mean, my mother, she's 88 years old. She's been taking this high blood pressure medication for all these years. And I'm like, well, mama, you know, do you really need that? I mean, because now that one medication then turns, when she come in the room, I mean, it's like, a bag of jingles. I mean, it's just, all the different medicines that they're giving to her. And I'm like, man, a big pharma, the only thing they're concerned about is making money. So we have to be concerned about our health, our community, our mental stability, our economic security, our social construct. There are so many different areas that we have to be concerned with. And a lot of people think that, oh, if I proclaim my nationality, is all that going to change? Guess what? You'll find yourself in a better position to be able to understand it a little bit better about all those other areas. It has to start somewhere. Why not with your identity? What would you have to say about that, Brother Ironzeal?
Well, when you look at the teachings, for those of us that have been exposed to the teachings and the Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, where it makes mention about how the miner seen the man on his unfruitful field, and he was going about it a scanty way, but but the miner had a capacity to be able to see beneath the soil.
Yes. Yes.
Miner got a skill. He knows what's there.
Yes.
So he was able to kind of inform the farmer just go a little deeper. And the man believed.
Yeah, he believed.
But once he believed, he went to work. So you just can't say you believe and don't do no work. Your belief should motivate you towards your faith. If you just say you believe in and not doing no work, you're not believing, because your belief should motivate you. So if you come into more Science America and you believe your conditions can be better, you should be motivated towards that area. Then Allah gonna bless you with everything you need to make your conditions better. Now they might appear to be hard to you because you're not used to it. They might even appear to be difficulty, but they building you. You've been built.
Yes,
You've
sir.
been restored.
Mm-hmm.
Values been given to you. You becoming human again. Your humanity was taken away from you. So you got to withstand that kind of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And if you withstand this pressure and stay on the road, your conditions is going to change.
That's right.
It's going to change.
That's right.
If you believe and put motivation behind your belief. And we can build, and through that process, we build sustainable, productive communities.
That's what we'll be building. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, more, I do appreciate you. It's always an honor to have Brother Tiaranzie, one of our very astute scholars and divine ministers in this Moorish Science Temple of America there in the great state of Missouri. And ever since I've known you, it's been about 20 years, Mo. It's been
Yeah.
about 20 years.
Yeah. We
And
first
ever
met when
since I've known you, you've
I
been
think we did the Midwest Conference when you first pulled into St. Louis.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We
So that's
raised the flag. That's when we raised the flag downtown.
yes, sir. And all I see is a good history of valiant, uh, persistent effort and accomplishment on your behalf. And I'd like to commend you for all of the work that you have done in this Moorish Science Temple of America, all the work that you are formulating to do and embark upon. And, in the generations to come, can be able to benefit from the sacrifice that you make today, right now, the years that you've put into this Moorish Science Temple of America. And just for the audience, I mean, how long have you been a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America?
41 years.
Ain't that something? Praise be to Allah. Been a member for 41 years. Praise Allah. That's a beautiful thing, more. That's a beautiful thing. And you, when you look up, who would have known that, yeah, hey, now you're going to be one of the elders. So, you're going to be a source of wisdom. You're going to be that stork, that the young stork is going to carry, his aged sire, and lodge you in safety. And praise Allah that your work, it never goes unnoticed. And we like to thank you again for taking out the time in your busy schedule to be here on the All Seeing Eye. And I also like to thank our listening audience who, asked several questions, and, hopefully those answers, pinpointed a lot of the ideals and direction of the Moorish Science Temple of America and what it is that we need to do in order to move forward. And if you want to move forward with any type of community program, hey, give me a call. You can always access Brother Tiaranzie. You know where he's at. Subordinate Temple number 5. And that's in St. Louis, Missouri. You can always call me 734-304-2329. And I can plug you into the sources once I ascertain exactly what it is that you're trying to do specifically. And we want to get something done for real. And we want to all put out a prayer. Let's just have a high prayer for our brother Fuquay Bay, for right now, because once I get off this call, I'm going to go see what's going on. But send out a prayer for our brother Fuquay Bay, that Allah, has his blessings upon him, and our brother Jaliko X, but everything is going to be all right. Now, again, I'd like to thank you, brothers and sisters. We're looking forward to seeing with you all in the next 2 weeks, but do plug in to the shows that's coming up this week. We're going to have Real Talk, Girl Talk, Moorish Talk. That will be on Thursday. The sisters going to have some great speakers on there. Those panelists are going to take you on a magic carpet ride, and you definitely want to be on the Universal Love with brother and sister Adams Bay. I do believe they're going to have, if I'm not mistaken, Brother Hopkins Bay and Brother Clendenin Bay on there, and they're going to be talking about nationality, I do believe. And Sister Johnson Neal, Sister S. Johnson Neal, and Sister N. Greer hosts the Real Talk, Girl Talk, Moorish Talk show. But definitely plug into those 2 shows. It'll be Wednesday and Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Building the Nation Network, Moors. And I do like to thank you again. Brother Tiaranzie, do you got any closing remarks before we go?
I want to thank you, listening artists, for being here. I want to thank Brother Crump Bay for having me, and may Allah continue to bless us. And everyone, please stay safe.
Praise Allah. And may the blessings of Allah continue to be upon each and every one of you. And when you separate in the world, Moors, remember the relation that binds you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. And with that, I bid you all peace.